Right, Kristin and Jara, it's an absolute pleasure to have you both on the podcast today. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
No, good.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey. And yeah, I'm really good, Tan. I just, thought you'd be a really great idea to, have you guys both on the podcast. And yeah, the topics in mind you want to kind of like talk about, like patience and like process in like life, business, work, whatever. Jara, do you want to go first, or Kristin? Kristin, do you want to go first? Like,
I'll let Jara go first with her process, and then I'll talk about
for
patience.
sure. So I have a small business, and I make Tibetan prayer necklaces and jewelry and stuff like that. And I found that being a new business owner, my process can be certainly messy at times, especially when I have my desk. But I love the idea of being so organized. So it's interesting where you stop and start certain things in my process. So I've learned that I'm so much more efficient, obviously, if I can be like, oh, there's a jump ring. You know what I mean? It's so much more easier than to struggle through things. But out of certain messes comes such magic. And I love that about me as well. Or I'll have certain colors on my table, and they'll be laying next to each other. And out of that comes this epic piece. So I don't want to be almost too organized or, unauthentic, because again, I try to straighten up, but I also try to show all the things behind the scenes of being organized or the lack thereof. So, and same with parenting. I feel like the process with the kids having, I'm sure, your child's 18 now, Kristin, but in the mornings when you got school stuff where you had to get ready to go, doing everything the night before, setting yourself up for success. And I find that in business too, like making sure you set a calendar on your, an alert to be like, okay, my taxes need to be paid this day, or, upgrade your business license or whatever it may be. So I find that those little tips are huge, and writing stuff down too, having a notebook of like, oh, I did this, or this is my account number. So I've been really trying to, I guess, curtail my process. But again, as a business, it grows with you for sure. You so have to be patient with that because it looks different for so many people. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So Adam, I was going to say for myself, like I'm still in the process of trying to decide what my business will be. So I'm more like someone who's been on this journey of just kind of sharing the stories that I do at the bar, and now taking it into like an IG live, and now branching up into a podcast. But what I've really learned is that I was never really a patient person, and I'm not good with process either. But I think that I'm learning to kind of figure out how to introduce a process to my system. And I've been really patient on this journey, and I'm really enjoying seeing what comes of it, which I think a lot of people want it right away, or they want it to be a business, or they want it to make a certain amount of money. And I think that what I've realized is like, I'm kind of glad that I took my time, because I really think I'm working on building something that hopefully will have a longer longevity, because I didn't rush it.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's great point, because when you rush things, it's almost like you make mistakes, or you're doing something that's not authentic, or being pushed in a direction that is so not you. And that's, like I said, when I went to design for the watch company, I took that year, and it was such an amazing process, because I had such freedom. Like there was no right or wrong answer. And that was, such a gift, because not everybody has that when you're thrown into something that's so new, and to have that freedom or that commitment from somebody that truly, and at that point they didn't even know, you know what I mean? Like what was there, they just saw something. And I loved that about that. So sometimes organically how the process unravels is, like you say, that journey is such a natural process, and you just have to listen to it too.
Yeah. I think like you said, like, with, like with Jara, with what you do, like I like your videos, because like when you do them, you kind of do like the start to the finish, like you'll be making something. Sometimes you'll like make it, and then you might tighten it too much, or it might be not kind of 100%, but then you'll be like, oh, this is, you're honest about it. Like, oh, I need to, this is happening, and this is what it meant to look like. And this is, and it's like, you see the process of what you're doing, and like, like there are all those beads on the desk or wherever you are. And it's like, and you make it look so easy. I could never do anything like, it'd take me like 2 days to do what you do in like 10 minutes, but I'm sure.
There's a lot of behind when all the beads fall off the one strand, and you forget to pull the one end, or you pick up the end that's tied and the other end is untied. So that, again, showing that process, I think, is so important, because it's not all cookie cutter. There are certain things that you do over and over again, or what you think is not a good piece of advice, or something so small. Like I remember when he gave me baby advice, the best advice was that they're going to change. They're never going to stay the same. no two babies are the same, and do what's comfortable. And it's just like everybody's process. You have to, even though you want to implement these processes and you want so bad for them to work, I know now that I am not an anal, OCD, everything back in its place. You know what I mean? I have so many bags where I've stopped and started different projects that have those remnants of that series of bracelets in there. But I've gotten better, you know what I mean? Because now I really spent 25 minutes looking for this jump ring, where if I just put it back, it'd be so much easier. So there are things that process and others that don't. And same with kids, but it's forever changing, I think, too, in your workspace or who you're making things for or how many too. So it's like I said, it's just a learning process for sure. So much patience.
And I think like patience ties into that. I think patience ties into all of that. And I think like with Kristin and what you're doing, like you do that Instagram live, you do different multiple Instagram lives on different things. And then you have different shows, and then, you're working at your bar and and I really love what you do as well. And I think, like there's a process to all of that. Then, there's patience to that. And, there's a process, isn't there?
Yeah, yes. I think for me also, but I think what Jara said earlier, so I do think like authenticity has to matter. And I think, really watching social media when you're building something, right? And you're trying to build a business or you're trying to build a brand, I think it's really easy to fall into traps. And that's what I've really noticed. I've been really watching a lot of people, and the amount of traps that are out there for people are so easy to fall into. And then you're stuck. And to me, I would not want to be stuck in that type of mode. So I'm kind of glad that I'm fine with like taking my time and doing it my way, because maybe it's messy, like Jara was saying, maybe sometimes my videos aren't as neat. Like I make typos all the time, but I'm just doing it by myself. I don't have a team behind me. So
totally,
if I have a word wrong, I'm like, well, did you like the message? And then they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, there you go. And that's okay, because the thing is like, I think people have to understand that you're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Like, but if it's something that you're really passionate about, or it's something that you really want to give to people, then it'll figure itself out. I really believe the universe puts the right people and the right things in your place when it's supposed to happen. So I think you should really just go about having fun. And one of the reasons I'm really conscious about when I add new content or new ideas or new shows, I do when I feel is right to me, because if you got stuck making content a certain way, and that's what they follow you for, then they always want that. So I want to make sure if I'm doing a funny Friday video or I'm doing an IG live, that it's something I want to do. Because if I don't, and then they get into it,
Yeah. You know, it's interesting about you say that, being authentic. There's a girl that I follow, and she's lovely, and she does a lot of singing bowls, and she is in an interracial marriage. And she says, and her husband is just so lovely, and he made her this great thing. I think I shared that one story about the fitness wellness girl and the musician, you know what I mean? And how the different couples, and this is a similar type of situation. And she says every time that she shows his face on camera, she loses 200 to 300 followers. And she came on and she was just such this lovely light. And yesterday she was just, everybody has their day. And I think when I came on crying, I was so saddened by, just an overwhelming, but it's interesting when you share that, because it's not always cookie cutter, rainbow sunshines, ocean surfing, and, epic jewelry, you know what I mean? Through that process, and I think showing that. And so she showed that, and she's like, I love him, and he moves me and makes me a better person. And if you don't want to follow, then my page was never for you. And being through that process. And like, my thing is like, when certain people come across you, no matter in life and business, at home, neighbors, you have that ability to change that trajectory of that day or that person or what you do to show up. And it's so important to do that all the time, I think. But there's going to be times we can't show up that way for whatever reason, within ourselves. And so it's just so important to have that resonate. And like you say, to be authentic and what our process is and how we do it and why. And to stay strong in that, you know what I mean? Not waver. Like you say, there's so many traps that make you like trendy. Like I can't stand trendy, you know what I mean? But yet that can keep people in business. Like the paper necklace, everybody wants. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it was interesting, Jara, you said that, because somebody said to me the other day, like, oh, I didn't know you were married or had kids. And because like, they don't really see it a lot. And I talk, if you listen to my videos, you'll hear me give a lot of advice. You'll hear me talk about them. But I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, I am not really good with sharing my home life. Like, that's mine. You know what I mean? Right. And I really feel like, sometimes you can share a lot, but you don't have to share all of it. And
sure,
my husband is not the type that they don't really want to be on camera. And I think so many people now feel like they have to bring their family into it, or they have to constantly be showing their relationship. And I'm like, but my relationship and my family was here before this, and they're going to be here after it. Right.
Exactly.
So to me, I have to sometimes, I'm more careful of sharing that because that's mine. And I think that some people don't feel comfortable enough to hold back certain aspects of their life because there's such a pressure to share it all.
I agree. Yeah.
For breakfast, making my smoothie. And it's like, I'm just not good at that. Like, I feel like, do they really give a fuck that I'm making a smoothie? You know,
Totally,
they really care.
And
So,
how many people
you have to be conscious of.
For sure. And I was sharing with Adam that there was times where I have to be careful now. I won't share my location, where I've had like people slip DMs, like really not nice things. And one guy said, he goes, I can see your daughter. I see her. And that was it.
Wow.
So that's the last time my business page that I did anything with her picture, any of my family, you know what I mean? So that's changed my business page versus my, friends page, which I think is only like 40 followers or 45 followers. Not that I care, but just those are the people that, you know what I mean? And then there was also the with the porn stuff. So like you say, you still have to be careful of what's inundated in your.
I get that.
Oh my God. I've gotten so many wet, things open, no followers. Like,
what about you, Adam? Do you get all those types of dirty pages?
I get some messages sometimes. Yeah, most of it's from forex traders or Bitcoin people. But
I get that. That's what I get. That's the porn I get. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had a few messages up from people in like Latin America sometimes, and I just have to delete it or block it. Yeah.
So having a safety of it for sure. Yeah.
But I think you have to, like, as you said, be very, very mindful and genuine and authentic in what you're doing, and kind of do what works for you or something that you resonates with you. If that makes sense. If something doesn't feel right, then don't post it. Or like, especially with boundaries, family. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but I think you have to just, I don't know, there's a fine line sometimes, like if you want to showcase, I mean, I do videos with my dogs, and I do snippets sometimes of things, but I don't feel comfortable. But that's what I feel comfortable with, and I respect other people. And do you know what I mean? It's with the internet today, like you said, there's a lot of critical people out there and a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of positivity. There's that kind of balance with it. And I think, like, in that process of, I mean, we're all kind of, we're all creators in creating content, and you're going to get people who might be negative. You're going to sometimes get people who disagree or say something. I think it kind of links in with that process, don't you think? It's kind of part of what we're all doing.
100%. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say 100%. It is like, like one of the things I'm always trying to do is get more real or authentic people, like people to really share real stories and try to find a commonality instead of differences. I think we're uber focused on differences, and I'd rather find commonalities. And I think through conversation, you can actually learn more if you have a disagreement, which I think is important. And just like, if I do want to share my family certain days, I do. Like, if it's something that's really cool or something special, then I will. But it's just not the main focus of my content. It will come up more in the conversation. But I think you have to if you're gonna really be honest, you're gonna have days that you're gonna maybe hit a topic that people don't really vibe with, or maybe they don't agree with you, and that's okay. And one of the things I want to say is, like, you don't have to agree with everything I say, and hopefully that you still like me and I can still like you, because we're not the same person with the same journey.
Yeah, and have a mutual respect, I think, between one another. And I think that's the art of the debate is lost. You know what I mean? We can agree to disagree, but you don't have to say, fuck you, you're an idiot. We can agree or bring some different type of perspective to the conversation. And like you say, I love the fact that when you were sharing different accounts, Kristin, things that bring you value, and some people may not know about certain things, or like the process, like, hey, did you know that you can do this, or you don't have to buy a business license or a seller's permit, just certain things that, new people, I find it fascinating how many people don't want to share. Do you know what I mean? Versus the opposite, like Kristin said, finding the commonalities. Let me help you. And it's kind of a running joke. New jewelers will come in and they'll come to my booth because I'm the friendliest. Because I'll tell them, like, whatever you want to know, here's my card. I'll tell you how to make it, how to do whatever. You know what I mean? Let's do it together. And they're like,
that's awesome.
You know what I mean? They're like, what? Really stops them short because it's what they do. But yet they it odd that especially a female is going to help another person. And this guy, he's like, and I know joke, he's like 6'9". He's an ex-basketball player and he's a coach. And he goes, yep, I knew you were the right person. And I love that people, that you can count on that. You know what I mean? Always, no matter if we have 1 follower or 100,000 followers, because that's not the point of why we do what we do, you know.
Right.
And you hope that you touch somebody and bring that to them, of course.
Yeah. So
And I was just gonna say, because that's one of the things I noticed with social media and what we're all doing. Like everyone's building something, or everyone's sharing, or everyone's trying to, build something they believe in, right? And then there is such a problem with people like liking, sharing, or even like cheering somebody on. And I don't even get it. And I experienced something through one of my shows, and somebody was upset that maybe some information wasn't given out properly or whatever. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, like, I think something's such a great message. And that's what inspired me to start my shout out on Tuesdays, because I was like, why are we worried about who got what attention? Like, just if good people are sharing good information, I just want the message to get out and happiness. So I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to start, I'm just going to shut for people. I don't care if this person is another woman who's a business owner or whatever.
Totally.
There's enough to go around. I just wish that more people were more giving instead of so selfish in their process, because
I love,
like,
so agree.
It's not easy to do this. Like, it's not easy to come out and do a podcast every week, Adam, and find people and also have a job. It's not easy to create jewelry or make music or make beats or make pottery. So like, if somebody's doing it and they come out and they're putting a lot of energy into it, what's the big deal if I say, hey, check this person out, yay for them? And
for sure.
It makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, it's like people, they do well at the market, you know what I mean? Or if, like, the other day, for some reason, San Diego's had gale fucking force wind. I don't know why. I have no idea. But like, with swirling around, like the other day I had like 18 necklaces and it was one hot mess of a knot. Like all lovely, and it had swirled around, and I'm like, and I'm in the middle of a market. I can't sell one necklace. And so you're just like, let me just get one apart. You know what I mean? But it was a hot mess. And you're just like, it was a tough day for me. You know what I mean? Because every time I'm like, fuck, could you turn the wind off? Something, you know what I mean? Because it was just destroying my pieces. And so finally it was the way I had to display them. But for me, somebody else didn't have that same perspective, and they did amazing. And when you ask like how they did so good, you're so proud. Like, I want them to do well because the market does well. Do you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with she sold different jewelry or whatever, you know what I mean? But the market did well, even though there were gale force winds,
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was, but you get through it, because not every day is perfect, but it's, you hope that the event was good for everybody. Same with like when you go into a bar, if, there's no running water, the event or the bar is not going to do well. You know what I mean? And then it makes it doubly hard. So everybody should, wish to have people do well. But like you say, there's an amazing amount of people that just want to marinate in that. And you just have to deflect that and really get good at, making it their idea. You know what I mean? And that's what you'll find too in your job when you do the training of mental health, making idea, giving them choices instead of it's very fine, the very finite type stuff, and choices are so great. And be like, wow, I can't believe you suggested that. That's really good. We'll go with that. You know what I mean? Because again, proactive versus reactionary. It's a lot different.
Yeah. So. No, I think they're really, really good, really great points. And I think like, it's better to have that kind of approach, isn't it? In wishing well for other people. And I think, what you kind of give out will come back to you. If you're going out there kind of resentful just for yourself, then you're not going to get that support. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to come to you. And I think...
I totally agree with that energy. And I think people see it. So like, I don't know about Kristin when she comes in, but I bet you she's got locals and regulars that come like every time just to see her, you know what I mean? Or just to, some people didn't have that. You know what I mean? Not everybody has that in their life. And you'd be surprised at what it took for that person to show up or how they thought of Kristin in certain ways. And I have people come to my booth, they're just like, wow, you know what I mean? And so that really resonates with me when people say that. It is not lost on me when people say, I can really feel how genuine or everything in your, your stuff, your pieces, and I love that. That's probably better than money for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the things I'd love to do with the bar when people walk in. I just love to yell their name out, like let them know I see you, they're here. And that's why I see it. It's like that's what I do on every night. So yeah, why can't I just do it on Instagram? We'll just do an Instagram shout out too, because it's basically how it is at the bar. As soon as I see you, it's like, oh my God, it's Bob. And that's what I love about the people too, because
like the bottom of your eardrums, like, oh my God, makes it feel so good.
Exactly. So yeah, same. bartending and social media and bartending, I think they're very similar. It's just one's done while you're pouring drinks, and then the other one is kind of like they have like, you know, building a fan base online is kind of like building up a clientele. I think they're very similar in that aspect, you know, and
Yeah.
and I hate the word followers. I hate the fact that Instagram calls it followers, because I don't know. I'd like to find a different word, because I don't want people to follow. I want people to connect. I like it more like I like it to be more connections, like connect with me, connect with you. You know what I mean? The word follow means like do what I do, or I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want people to think that
totally. And like you
see,
it triggers in the brain, I think, when you have those certain keywords, you know what I mean? Like you say, I want to connect, I want to resonate with you, and all those kind of things. That's such a great point.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think like as well, you know, that it's reframing that, isn't it? That word, you know, followers to like connections, or can't think of any other words, but I think connections is a lot better than followers. And that kind of, you know, I was thinking about when I worked in a bar and hotels, and there is that kind of like, it is a bit like social media, isn't it? You're connecting with people, you're building that rapport, and you know, they might be coming to the bar because you're there. And I remember like sometimes we would lose staff because we had a high turnover, and certain locals stopped coming in because certain people weren't there anymore. The manager wasn't there, and I was like, "What is going on?" But that's
the same with like a good, you know what I mean, or a good waitress, you know. And it's fun. Same with like a good person. Like my brother's a great, and he does it because he needs efficiency. That's how he works. You know, he's bipolar, and there's certain things that he likes to have, and having the meal breakfast start off his day as one of them. And so all the waitresses fight over him because he's very money there before he's done eating. You know what I mean? It's all right there and counted out. He gets the same thing, you know. And he'll tell him every time. And they're like, I know. So it's interesting, the consistency, or like you say, people, I think, want that. They function sometimes better that way, which is nice that we can provide that.
I think also if they change the name, I think if people approach social media as their connector, like as a connection instead of a follower, I think they wouldn't be so obsessed with the number. You know what I mean? They're so obsessed with the number, and I'm like, I don't understand what that number means, because one of the things I have learned with this process or patience is when I can't believe how many people are really out here killing it, making so much more money, and I'm actually making a living. I'm not making a living. I'm just doing it out of like learning and giving and connecting. But there's so many people that are making a living with barely any followers, or only 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers. So like, I don't understand why people like I in my DMs always like, oh, get more likes, get more follows, get more this, get more engagement. And I'm like, well, I don't really need, like, well, what does it matter if they're not really into what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to make a community that really cares what I'm talking about or vibes what I'm doing, you know?
But if you research it, right? If you research it, they usually have 0 followers.
Yeah. You know, and I'm like, who are you?
Reaching out. And it's so interesting, the traps that you set in, where I like just follow right away. The one guy that I gifted the mala to, the Marcus King band, he said that one of his bandmates DM me, and I was all excited, and he totally hooked me, Kristin. And then I looked, and he had 0 followers. He was a snake. You know what I mean? And then he hooked my, and it was really a situation. And I was like, God, and I texted him back. I was like, you're mean. It was ridiculous, because that's what I felt. I was like, oh, I was so hooked. It's like a good story, and you know, it's not real. You know, it's like we're all hit. You know, and I was so excited that I have that interaction. And how sad is that? Where I was so excited that he was part of something that I liked, but he knew that, and so that was the shady part about it. You know, it's like he searched my account. You know, it's just scary. So just safety.
I think like with followers and things like that, like I'm not motivated by followers, or it's not like the reason why I post. I think it shouldn't be the reason why you post.
Right.
And I like, it's kind of like who follows you, isn't it? Who's you know, in your kind of tribe, or that makes sense. Not how many. And it's like, I'm really grateful, you know, to have you guys, you know, in my crowds. And you know, I think like with the process of making content, like what I've learned as well, and you guys probably relate to it, how powerful it is, that connection and that experience and that relationship with other people, if that makes sense, along the way. You know, the people you meet and those relationships. And you know, like when I first started doing this, you know, it changed my life, you know, like doing this and meeting you guys and building connections. And I think you can't really buy that. Do you know what I mean? You can't buy
Yeah.
that relationship with someone.
Mhm.
Have you,
No,
do
I
you find that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, because I think that's the thing about connections and human interactions. You can't buy that, and there's not a monetary value on that. So I think if you're about connecting and you're about, meeting people and sharing information and learning and giving, you're never gonna. There's not a number on that. Like if I get a DM from somebody who says, "Oh my God, I got on camera because of you," that to me was better than a page. I mean, I know I still need to pay my bills, but that to me makes me feel good, because I made somebody go after something that they were afraid to do. And that means a lot to me. And that's what, to me, what it's all about. And then if it turns into something else on top of it, that's just a cherry on top.
So great. Yeah, I so agree with that. Like the other day I gifted, it was a little teeter ring, and he was having a really hard time. And unbeknownst to me, his older brother was autistic. And she goes, "Oh my God, we've been looking for one of these, can you make us a custom one?" And it's out of those connections, that out of the kindness of like, "Oh my God, I would make you whatever you wanted to make your life easier." You know what I mean? With a child. And I just love that connection with those people, or, it resonates so much, or you tell them your story, you know what I mean? It's not about you sometimes, but when people ask you, that's when I'll jump in and I'll say, "Gosh, you guys," and I do it now, taking things for granted that you thought were going to be there tomorrow. Right. And you not be. Like, I mean, like I never thought that I would watch my husband walk out the front door and then run after him and give him a hug and say goodbye. Like, what an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, what a different person I am today. Like, ran like, "Hold on, let me give you kisses. Bye." Like, hello. And then you think about it. Wow.
Get the fuck out.
Wow. I mean, so what time does to your heart, to your mind, to your soul, and to show that and to become present. You know what I mean? Have people come back in your life and be like, "What?" Wow, look at that. Look at that. It means more than money. I would take that all day, every day, and give my whole stand away for people to take that little nugget and run with it, for sure. Whatever that, like be a gemologist. Like I remember this one kid, he was like, ooh, the whole time. And he was like, and you're just like, "Oh, like, I love you." I love that passion. Like you say, you can't teach that. You can't create that in people. And that's what's hard, is to find that fire, or what can you do to manipulate something, especially in your own children, to surround them with that, to just catch that fire. You know what I mean? If they're not having that. And I feel like that's my process at the moment, where I'm trying to balance that in a way, you know what I mean? Because it's almost like I resonate more with strangers sometimes. And I hate to say that, but honest with your own kids, or what they need, or how you can make it better for them in their life,
Yeah.
So.
No, it's powerful, isn't it? It's really powerful when you think about it, when you reflect on it.
Yeah. I think also what you said, Jara, when you said you connect with strangers more, isn't that kind of life? I mean, look at like social media. So many people that you don't even know will cheer you on so much more than someone you've known for 15 years. Like start a podcast, who goes over and subscribes to it. Sometimes it's a person who follows you on Instagram or social media that's going to go over and give you more feedback than your own people or friends that are in your family. So I mean, that's just sometimes how it is, because maybe there's just like, there's a common out, like there's a connection, or there's a comfort with that they don't feel, that they don't realize that they sometimes need that from you. So
or they say it out loud, or the judgment too. I found sometimes the judgment, and we're all guilty of it. And people who say that they don't judge are just full of shit. You know what I mean? You could package it, put a nice little bow on it, or however you want to do it, but we all do it in some sense. And I hate
human nature.
Whether it's just human nature, and not so much in a malice way. I mean, you know what I mean? Obviously there's horrible, but so yeah, just doing that. And the strangers, it's interesting how many people that, they're like, "I'm so glad I stopped." And it's just makes your day, or they've took the time, and it doesn't happen very often. I have my people, my regulars, that will share, and like, but complete strangers that have just seen you for 30 seconds, and then they go and say something. It's so a highlight of my day. And I make sure to say it to them, that it wasn't lost on me. And I think that's following up, thank you cards, making sure that you say, "Wow, I see you." And it could be just so simple. That's why when Kristin started doing the shout outs, I was like, fuck, that's so great and so easy, even though it takes time, obviously, but it's just such an easy, free thing to do. you know, it's a lovely thing to do. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, same here. And I think it's very genuine and organic, isn't it? I think you know, it's when it comes from your heart and is natural, you know, it's really evident, I think, as well. And it's I think it's, you know, so powerful. And I think like people, as you said, you know, like strangers might connect sometimes more with your content. And I think sometimes people might not understand it, or they might come from, you know, a different background or whatever, but just don't get it. And that's okay. And I think it is quite astounding when that happens sometimes, you know, and you're like, oh geez, you know, like,
Yeah.
and you put the connect the dots back together.
Yeah. Well, it's like watching magic happen. It's funny when you know, I'm so thankful to Richie, who, you know, I wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for him. Be like, you know what, have you ever thought about selling or doing whatever? I'm like, there's no way that I could sell my mala that I put like prayers, like to see again. I didn't think who would want to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, why would they do that? And so without him, his confidence in me, you know what I mean? So it's interesting what we feel like we can't do. And yet we can do, you know, it was there the whole time, but how it manifested, you know. So I think it's so important to, like you say, follow yourself and be authentic and to do what you love. And you may not be good at it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a horrible drawer. And when I say horrible, wretched. It's bad. Like it's so bad, but I mean, I could do it, you know what I mean? But it's putting things behind the energy of what you want, you know what I mean, in life. And I think that we just have to pick and choose of where we put our energy, especially as we get older. I find that as well, where, you know, it's not that I want to hollow invest in somebody, but I also want it to resonate with people and to have that time taken seriously, because we are so limited in time of what we do in our life now. It seems like, you know, I feel like right now, and I hope I get to a place where I'm not scheduled so much. You know what I mean? It's so much time with the pandemic and now waking moment. You know what I mean? We have something, you know, so I'm really trying to see that and step back, especially like on my Mondays, you know, where I'm just, you know, slowing down and I'm not making appointments. I'm not doing, you know, certain things to try to get time a little bit. So
I think that's all part of the process, isn't it? I think it's, you know, like reflecting, isn't it? And kind of, you know, taking a step back and thinking about things. And it's kind of like a lot of the time, you know, everything's going on around us. I mean, Kristin, you've got a business and, you know, there's a lot going on with that. And you must reflect as well and check in and think about things as well. And I think that's, you know, if you're self-employed or you're in that kind of busy kind of business, you kind of, I think, have to do that, don't you, to kind of get that bit of clarity.
Yeah. But, I totally agree with you, especially like, you know, when you're trying to build a side passion and you're still having your regular job, that's tricky because you're juggling a lot of things and running a family. So you're kind of like, you got a lot of balls in the air and you're trying to make sure that you're getting your posts out, you're getting your guests lined up, you're still doing 100% of your job. Like right now I'm bartending and we're short staffed. So I'm going in and working like till 2 a.m. then I'm getting up the next day and then I'm trying to get content out and I'm trying to get the show off and 2 shows a week, you know, so it's a lot. And then still try to be there for the husband and the son, you know, but you figure it out. And for me, that's part of like getting like what she said, Jara said in the beginning, like, you know, your process. I'm trying to get better at like, okay, what is the content I'm going to put out this week? Hey, I'm home today. I'm going to edit today. You know, I'm not going into work till 5 o'clock tonight. So let me just edit in the morning. So, you know, you learn to figure out what works for you to get it all done. And then you just do it, right, Jara? You just do it.
Yeah. Do it and you grab it, and it's so funny because you look back and you're like, gosh, look what I've done, or you know, or what I was going through. I think when I was on your show, I was talking about like when you're in those valleys, everybody else around you was just like a bit bug-eyed, you know, and you're just like, dude, I have no choice. I've got no choice in the matter, you know. And it's interesting when people try to come back. You know, I've had an interesting enlightenment on that realm where people try to come back and kind of dip back in, and you're like, no, that we can't have that, you know what I mean? Because the process is now doesn't involve you anymore, you know what I mean? And you have to be able to around it or without it, and you can't just wait around. That door closes at some point, you know what I mean, in life. And I try to again pass it along with the kids, you know what I mean? You don't want too many doors to close. You want them to close organically, and because you had the control of it, not because somebody else had the control of it. And again, not speaking of control, but you just want to be in charge of that, you know. And like you say, I'm the one who does my management. I'm the one who gets up or chooses to, you know, go down that rabbit hole of the dodo, you know, animal videos for the last hour and a half should have been doing the so you have, and we're all guilty of it, but we have to make sure that we have that, because again, I know me, I get very crabby and very anxious when I know I'm forced to do something. So her process has really changed, and I'm so proud of the fact, like I said, when I look back at that, I still see it in my head, like running out, you know what I mean? Like what a difference, years, and the confidence and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And like she said, instead of seeing how different we are, let's see how many commonalities we have with the people that make us happy and that shine our brightest, because that's what we want. And I'm sure, Kristin sees it at the bar too, or whatever work you're in. When people come through you're just like, God, I almost feel sorry for them. I wish I could just sprinkle a little bit of something, because you can see it. You can see the mundane, the motion, how sad it is with a trap. And you know what I mean? And you just hope that something shines on them so bright. And again, the stories that I have, there was one woman that she had a brand new baby, and you could tell she was postpartum, had put on some weight, or clothes weren't fitting. She wanted to get back out there. And the dude was like, dude, I got like $3,000 in change, but could not part with $100 to buy her a necklace. That was the paperclip chain that she wanted for Mother's Day. And she's like, 100. I said, yeah, it's gold filled. It's great quality. I almost gifted it to her, but I was waiting, and he just was right there the whole time. Kristin, talk about fucking patience. I wanted to it was so much. And she had to there, and you saw that his fit was all solid, and she was like trying to come out, you know what I mean? And he just, and it was really hard to watch. And at the end, she's like, you know what? It's going to bring me happiness. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to knock, 30% off. I hope, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And I was so happy that she bought it, and it was with her money, her reasoning, and why she wanted. He walked, and I shifted my whole focus from him as a tool to her, and trying to build her up. You know what? I'm here every week. I don't want you to buy something that's going to put you in a place, you know what I mean? It's lovely. It'll last you a lifetime, whatever it was. But I was like, please, I'm here all the time. We can do a custom, I really want, and it was almost like talking her out of it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want her to talking her into it. You know what I mean? That's your last $100 or food money or diaper money. You know what I mean? Because homeboy had his 3,000, you know what I mean? Not on his kid's ass. They were around his neck, you know what I mean? And his gold chains, because those are solid. They were solid. So things like that, where it is a fine line where you have to kind of dance that, where you want her to be empowered, and yet you see that happening right in front of your eyes. And so sometimes it's magical, and sometimes it can be, but like I said, I think organically involving. Yeah, seeing your value. I wanted her to see her value and seeing it like you don't need him and on him for having the chains, whatever. It just didn't, and he was so lost. And like Richie was saying, he goes, it's so sad to me that for the last 3 days now that you thought about her. And I'm like, because it was so sad. It was sad to watch that she's going to go home. And that's continue. Yeah. It sticks with you. And there's certain people that stick with you, and you're just like, man, if they could just see. But I was that person.
Well, it's like when you want to sprinkle your wand to make you feel something or see something, and you can't do it. It's hard. That's why you want to just kind of give what you can give, because you're hoping that it gets through to people. Yeah, I connect.
For sure. But with on the other end of it, if your children didn't walk through what I didn't walk through on the other end, I wouldn't have that perspective and bring that to the table with me now. So out of the valleys do come that magic, you know what I mean, of makes you a different person. And I know that sounds very cliche, but it is very true. You know what I mean? It really sticks. Like when I save a certain amount of money, and I hate to say that I'm saving, but there are certain things that I'm allotting my money for, and I want to set myself up on the other end, and nobody else is going to do that for me. Nobody, just my little pod, my people, so keep your pods.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like, when you're an empathic person as well, and you see things and you see other people, and you can kind of see it, but they can't, when people are in it, they can't see it. It's a bit like with certain relationships, you don't see certain things when you're in it, only when you're out of it. And I think when you're caring and you're sensitive and you care, your energy goes out to people, whether that's, working in a bar, or when you're doing, like with Kristin, or like John, you're on the stall, you see it. And I think when you're that kind of person, it can be quite difficult. Then you end up like taking that home with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that kind of like comes down to, as you mentioned, like, as you both mentioned, you are the ones who have to show up. And I think it's like, accountability, isn't it? And, patience and the process all kind of interlinked together.
Excuse me.
And I think it's really important to have these conversations. But are you guys okay for time? I know we said 45. Are you okay for?
Yeah, I got like 5 more before I head out.
Yeah, 5 more. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And is there anything else you guys kind of want to mention or cover? I'm just trying to think of reflect on what we've been talking.
I would like, your process is your process. You know what I mean? You can't compare it, and whatever help you can give somebody, I think they have to kind of decipher it for themselves. You know what I mean? I'm a very visual, hands-on person, and I was so appreciative when I first started that there was a girl that walked me through certain things, because I just wasn't getting it. You know what I mean? I just felt like I was spinning my wheels and I was kind of in the same spot and not growing too fast. I remember when you, like you say, you surround yourself with people that are going to tell you like, that's not good for you. You know what I mean? Or this is not working for you, or I've lost sight of your content and now I don't see it anymore because it doesn't resonate with me, whatever it may be. So I think sometimes we want to get so big so fast, and I can't imagine not being on my back patio making jewelry or a mala. Do you know what I mean? Like that's really hard for me to envision the prepackaged or the factory that makes my stuff and that I oversee it. Like, I don't know if that's going to be a day. And I think you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, that you're not looking at somebody else. You want to see the kind of ins and outs maybe, but it's not exact. You know what I mean? On the way you do it. And I think we're all so different, and that's what makes us authentic. And that's what sets us apart. And that's why you have your favorite people, and to not take it personal. You know what I mean? Kristin may not be, Mac's favorite bartender, and that's okay. You know, Sally may have bigger boobs. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But it just doesn't matter. And I think sometimes you can't take it personal if you've done everything that you can do, and you know what I mean, in your process. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to please everybody. And I remember like different metals and stuff where people will tell you what's what. You know what I mean? Well, it's not worth that. Then that's fine. It's not for you then. So you just have that confidence, you know what I mean, as you go in that process, and not look back. You know what I mean? Try to define that in a certain way and really stand behind it, and people can, they know what to expect, within parameters. Obviously there's certain things outside of your control sometimes, but yeah, I think my best wrap up for sure.
I like that. I think for me, I think it's just messy's okay. It's not going to be perfect. And I think the greatest gift I had was just doing it without overthinking it, because I was overthinking it and I just didn't take the jump. And it's just better to just take the jump and let it be a little bit messy and not perfect, and then just be a little bit patient with the process of it. And I think you'll be blown away what you can actually accomplish and how many more doors will open because you took the chance. So I would just encourage people to just jump and just not worry about if they have the process right. Like she said, a process will develop as you're going along. Just be a little bit more patient. Don't worry about being the best or the biggest. Just worry about what is that passion that's in you, and try with it, and then see what develops from it.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love, what you've both said. And I think that's so important, that process, and, not getting caught up in trying to, I think, like for me, kind of toward my process, like I used to want things now, and, I was a big perfectionist. And I think before I did a podcast, I overthought it a lot. I kind of thought about what's it going to look like, what people are going to think. And I think sometimes you're going to come up against yourself, but you have to kind of go through that, don't you? You have to kind of go through those motions and trust that process ultimately in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Definitely try to get out of your own way, I think. I think sometimes we're our own biggest critics, and like I say, I think talking with strangers, like there's only so many times Richie can try on a bracelet or say, oh, that looks great. So I think sometimes when you're in it, and you know what I mean, and dating your loved ones, too, it's so nice to be able to bounce ideas off of, different people. And like you say, take it what it is, and take those little pieces that fit into your process, what it is, so I love, like you say, the encouragement of all our peers. And I just think that's so important to just take a day or a moment, be like, wow, I'm just going to do this just because, or recommend. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like if I'm not your speed, so-and-so two rows down is your bag, So just doing that and encouraging others to do it, I think too.
Yeah.
Will hopefully start that momentum, that process going with them.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, I love it. And I was just thinking as well, where can people find you guys on social media and that kind of thing?
I'm Kristin being Kristin, IN. on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And my podcast is Chicken in the Bag Podcast.
I love that.
Awesome.
You say I love I'm at Jara Young Designs on Instagram and YouTube, and I do some Instagram lives as well as some YouTube and IGTV type stuff, and Facebook. So that's my business page.
No, awesome. It's awesome. No, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having this podcast with you guys, and I wish you continued success in the process of all that you're both doing.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Jara.
No,
Good
you're
seeing
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
All right,
See you. Get some sleep,
care.
Kristin.
Okay.
Take